Thank you for joining the Royal Buzz, your go-to podcast that's buzzworthy and dedicated to purpose-driven leadership, legacy, and authority-driven storytelling. Where high meets high, listen to the magic one story at a time. Today's episode, we promise you'll leave believing that the past does not have to define your future. David's story is a powerful reminder that even when life delivers unimaginable setbacks, whether through illness, trauma, loss, or betrayal, there is still purpose on the other side of the pain. I'm your host, Trina Myers, and Queen Bee of the Creative Agency. Let's welcome our guest, David Pasqualone. David is a speaker, entrepreneur, author, and faith-driven encourager whose life is a testament to resilience. Raised by a single mother and facing extreme childhood adversity, he was repeatedly told he would never amount to much. At 18, doctors discovered a brain tumor the size of an orange, and by 19, he was fighting for his life. Against the odds, David not only survived, but went on to build a successful career, raise a family, and overcome multiple life-threatening health challenges. His journey didn't stop there. From chronic illness and medical battles to devastating personal trauma, David has faced hardships in nearly every area of life. Yet, through it all, he has remained steadfast in his faith, choosing perseverance over defeat and purpose over pain. Today's mission is simple but powerful. David's mission is to help people know God, discover their purpose, overcome adversity, and live with confidence, hope, and unwavering determination. Please help me welcome David to the Royal Buzz podcast. David Pasqualone with me today. And there is something in alignment that him and I, our journeys have traveled some very similar paths. And I can't wait to dig in a little bit deeper about that. So before we begin, David, can you tell us a little bit about who you are?
So I am just one of the 7 billion people on the planet right now. I love God. I love my family and friends. I love people in general. By profession, I'm a sales and marketing consultant. I help businesses grow. And I have a podcast, a Remarkable People podcast. And our whole goal is to help people grow and glorify God. And we do that by bringing remarkable guests on from all around the world, but not just highlighting what they achieved or overcame, but we reverse engineer their steps to success so the listeners and myself can too. So that's who I am in a nutshell right now. And I live in Pensacola, Florida.
Oh, I love Pensacola. That's one of my all-time favorite places to go. It's not too overpopulated and the water is just perfect.
I know it's a hidden gem. If anybody is looking for reasonable beachfront property, Pensacola is the place to be. It's awesome
Absolutely.
people, awesome politics, awesome everything. I love it here. There's
Yeah.
beauty everywhere in the world, but I love Pensacola.
Oh, I love it. It was one of my I used to be a college recruiter, and that was I wouldn't let anybody have that territory when I would go to the colleges in that area because I love it.
Yes, it's phenomenal. If you haven't been here, listen to Trina and I schedule a visit. You won't want to come home.
Absolutely, I agree with that. Well, David, thank you so much for joining me today. And as I had mentioned in the introduction, we have some very similar experiences in life. And the first thing I want to find out more about is you have been critically ill multiple times. Tell us a little bit more about that experience.
Yeah, so all of us go through things and there's different levels. There's spiritual, mental, physical, emotional. I've gone through most of it, and God's always with me. But the critical illnesses, I was sick for about the majority of my childhood and teenage years, and they found a tumor in my head when I was 18. They took it out, it grew back. They took it out, it grew back. I had radiation. I dropped all the way down to 135 pounds. And then finally, God brought me to a chiropractor who did holistic medicine. And he's like, get off all the dairy, get off all the sugar, take these supplements. And slowly but surely, I just got better. And to this day, it's a huge story. I mean, it took a long time to go through. It took time to recover, but every single aspect, God was in it, and I shouldn't even be alive multiple times. And then when I was in my 30s, I went to a dentist and he gave me an infection in my face, and it just festered for months, and I
Oh
was in
my
like
goodness.
pain. And then for about a year and a half, I started getting real bad stomach pains and shakes and all these weird things. And then I was moving from Washington State to Pensacola, Florida in 2007, and on the way over, I dropped. And when I dropped, like, I lost my sight, I passed out. I
Oh
was still
wow.
conscious, but I couldn't control my body. And the ER in Texas, they're like, "You have a blood infection. We don't know what it is. You can stay here, but you can stabilize and get to Pensacola." So that's what I did because I had a wife and 2 kids and a U-Haul trailer, you know what I mean? A Penske truck, whatever.
Yeah.
And then from there, I was sick and in agony every day for 3 years until I went to the Mayo Clinic, and they didn't even believe me that it all started with the dentist, so they did exploratory surgery while I was awake, and they're like, "Oh, no." They're like, "You have a section that was like there was a bone calcified over an active infection, and that active infection was what was poisoning me from the inside out and, causing me extreme problems." And again, I dropped from like 230 to 145 pounds, and it was I'm not exaggerating. I was in not just pain, but agony every day
Right.
for 3 years. So that season, life, the Bible talks about seasons of life. Some seasons are short, a week, some are a month, some are a year. This particular one was 2005 to 2007 pain, 2007 to 2010 agony. And then I finally started getting relief. And now I'm from even after all this stuff, I'm healthier than ever.
Wow, that's great. As somebody who's grown up in being ill myself, I too, people said, oh, that you're a hypochondriac, it's all in your head. And I actually didn't get diagnosed. I was diagnosed with a rare disease in my 40s.
Yes.
So, I went for decades of misdiagnosis and pain, and I'm still in pain. Unfortunately, that is comes right along with my particular rare disease is being in pain every day and just learning how to deal with it. So you've been through all these challenges as individuals in the rare disease community understand what you're going through, all that gaslighting and just trying to figure out what's going on so you can feel better. How did you push through this and work through all of this chaos?
Well, I'll tell you what, you probably have listeners who believe in God and you have listeners who don't, but I'm just telling you my perspective on life. I absolutely believe in God. I absolutely believe the Bible. I believe that God causes no pain or harm, but sometimes he allows it only to benefit us and glorify him. So when I was going through everything as a teenager and doctors are telling me that, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm a hypochondriac, blah, blah, blah. I stopped going to doctors. And
Mhm.
like you were talking about, they mess with your head and they make you question yourself. And the fact is, it's a practice, it's a medical practice. But since the late 80s, early 90s, they labeled it as a profession so they can make more money. And labeling it as a profession, they get this God complex and they think they know everything, and they don't. So when I go in as a patient, I'm willing to say, hey, this could be something new, rare. I understand you're just a man or a woman and you're trying to figure this out. I meant man like mankind.
Right.
And when I'm sitting there as a patient, I'm understanding it's a human and I'm praying that God gives them the wisdom. But when doctors see patients, especially today, it's like, if we don't find it on our chart, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just making it up. Here, take drugs, take
Right.
pharmaceuticals. So it's a really broken system. So going back to what kept me going, 100%, it was God because I knew that He loved me. And I knew that no matter what I was going through, if I wasn't dead, He's not a vindictive God. He's a loving God. So if
Right.
I'm alive, there's a purpose. I'm gonna
Absolutely.
I'm gonna benefit from it, so I just kept fighting, and that's the key, just never quit. If God wanted you home, like, if somebody's listening now and they're in agony every day, man, you have my heart. I don't know why it's happening, but I know that it's gotta have a personal, perfect reason, and even if someone was to die on this earth, they still have all of eternity, so we wanna run the race that's set before us the right way. For the average life for most people is 70 to 80 years. And after that, it's eternity. So I want to be with God, not in a lake of fire. So that was my motivation. Just keep fighting, never quit. And that's what got me through it. And there was downs, there's downs, there's
Right.
lows, there's times you have a bad attitude. But when you put it in the right perspective, that's when everything changes and you actually heal. And I remember like a distinct moment when I was sick in my 30s where I just had a paradigm shift. I saw a mother and a handicapped child who was in his 30s, and I was like, I've had a good life, even though by most people's standards, it's, not.
Right.
I have love, God, I have love, I have friends, I have family, and I got nothing to complain about. I can walk, I can talk, I can think. This kid's in a wheelchair for the rest of his life and he's dependent on his parents. So for the parents, for the kid, I just thought there's always somebody that has it worse, but even for them, there's a purpose. So that moment of being like, dude, you're going to die. According to the doctors, you're going to die. Like they're like, make out your will, get your affairs in order. And I was in agony. But I was like, you know what? I had 30 good years. I got to have two beautiful children and I got to know them. So I'm okay to go. So that was a huge moment for me.
Yeah, so knowing your why, and people ask me that all the time. How do you do this? How do you push through? And like you said, I always have that perspective that there are individuals who are in worse condition than I am. My rare is mild in comparative to others. And knowing your purpose. And I know that for me is being the voice and the advocate for those who don't know where their voice is, or how to use it. And you're absolutely right. Knowing where the love of God is and that you are embraced by God. And that alone, I think, pushes me every single day.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's who are we in the dark? Who are we when we're alone in the sense of man? We want God there and He is there if we allow Him to have that peace and that joy. And that's where the strength comes from. I can say 100% everything I went through I know there's a purpose. Some of it I actually know the answer, some I still don't know the answer, but I
Mhm.
know there was a purpose. Now, do I wanna go through it again? Heck no.
Right.
No freaking way. But I know that there's also times, like I said, the attitude is the perspective is the most important because, when I was down, I remember I had some people that they feed into it, or some people judge you, or some people actually call you out like, "Hey, what's wrong with you? Suck it up and look at the good." And I
Mhm.
remember when I had one of my buddies, he was not only had advanced Lyme's disease, but he used himself as a human guinea pig for so many dangerous things. I remember being like, his name was Les, and being like, "Les, man, can I take you to the hospital?" He's like, "No, put this other IV in me." He's like, "I'm either gonna die or figure this out." And sure enough,
Wow.
the guy, you know, in his life, he cleared himself of Lyme's disease, but he died from something totally unrelated. It, and he never really got it out there.
Yeah.
When we were doing that, I remember there was times I'm like, Les, does this feel good? Does this hurt? How do your fingernails feel? It's like my fingernails don't hurt. He's like, that's the only part of my body that doesn't hurt. I'm like, okay, then let's focus on that. Your fingernails hurt. It's just trying to get the perspective. Like it could always be worse. And okay, I need to be thankful for this. And it's hard. The worst things is family and emotion and, physical pain is physical pain. but that heartbreak or, something happens to your kids or betrayals, those are the things in life that are the most challenging, I think. Those are the most, they reveal who you are. And sometimes it shows you're not really a good person and you got work to do. You just everything happens for a reason again.
Right. And so having that purpose, knowing your why, and going forward. So you have overcome these challenges. What are you doing today that you probably wouldn't have been doing if you wouldn't have pushed yourself forward?
Well, if I didn't push, I'd be dead,
Oh,
100%.
yes, but I meant,
And then
so now you've overcome these
yeah.
challenges. What are you doing today that you are doing to help others? You're making a difference.
So I think the everyday is the most important, and, the relationships you have with God and yourself and your family and others, and even just the everyday communications that you go through a drive-through or you hire somebody to build you a shed or, do something, clean your pool. There's so many people who say they're Christians and they go to church on Sunday. Well, to be Christian is to be Christ-like. And to be quite honest, they're completely jerks. You know what I mean? In everyday life. So I
Right.
think the most important thing is just being Christ-like as much as you can. Again, I fail, you fail, everybody fails, but that's an opportunity to grow. But really put all your energy into being a kind person and to be someone who has boundaries. You, I usually the people who are the biggest hypocrites are the ones that say, "Don't judge me." Okay. There's good judgment in the Bible, and God says to judge. By the way, there's a book of judges, right? There's judges and
Right.
judgment all over the Bible. So if you tell people not to judge you, you got to really self reflect. And if you're pissed
Right.
off at me right now, that really shows you got an issue. Okay. So,
And so
but
that's saying don't throw the rock at the glass house.
yeah. So you are supposed to judge people based on biblical fact, but we're not supposed to be judgmental based on our opinion. And there's a huge difference. If my
Right.
buddy's leaving his family and wasting his check and shooting up and going out with prostitutes, I'm going to tell him he's in sin. That's not judgmental. That's good judgment. But now, if someone is taking a job at a distillery, okay, now that's my personal opinion. Maybe I'm fine with it,
Right.
maybe I'm not. But people get that mixed up all the time. So why I was talking about all that is I think every day how it changed me is just to remind me that I need to be a better man. I need to be as pure and as honest as possible. And in our society, the more honest you are, the more people beat on you. It's especially in
Yes.
Christian circles. So it's really, again, sad, but God talks about in Revelation, how the church is going to be, most of the churches. And then when it comes to just the daily walk, if you have a ministry or if you have something you're doing to serve the homeless, but you're a jerk to your employees or you're a jerk to people you meet at the drive-through, well then your life is vanity. So I try to make sure that I'm not only the best person I can be each day, but I love friends who call me out when I'm not and tell me the truth. And then I started the podcast because I got this awesome life and opportunity to meet all these remarkable people. And it is true. Not everybody has the same opportunity. So, like your podcast, people come here, and I can't meet with the number of listeners you have one on one, but now we have the opportunity to spend time together by being on a podcast. So, like with my podcast, I can introduce my guests to our audience all around the world, and we all get the insight and wisdom. So, those are just a couple of things that I know that by being sick and really grasping, I'm going to meet God. And am I going to be the servant he says, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant"? Or is he going to be shamed and mad at me?
Right. So taking all your experiences and your beliefs, and you had to make some shifts in your life. And again, we have a similar alignment in life and professionally you do along the same type of work. We've already established the podcast. We know that we both are podcasters. But what else do you do to make an impact in others' lives professionally?
So I won't take a client on unless I believe in them, unless I use the product or believe in the product, unless they have a desire to be number one. They're not just, I'm okay making X dollars. That's all I need to enjoy the life I want. No, it's all about how can we help people. And in business, if somebody, I work with anybody as long as they have a good attitude and what they're doing is moral. Okay. So if I work though, if somebody came to me and said, I want you to, I want to hire you to build me this website and it's for something I don't believe in, I won't do it. I won't
Mhm.
do it just for money. Or if someone came to me and said, hey, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, and I want to help all these people and I want to make more money. And then as we're making more money, I see them just pissing it away and helping nobody but themselves. I'll fire the client. And that's just how I am. So I've always been that way. And Lord willing, I always will be, in the sense of just practicing what I preach and not being a hypocrite. So professionally, I'm a sales and marketing consultant. I help businesses grow. I have local companies that are, what people refer to as mom and pop. And I have huge clients that are international and do tens of millions of dollars annually in sales. So yeah, we're all over the board in our clients, but I'm very thankful for what we have going on here.
Yeah. So, as we're coming up on the time to wrap up the conversation, are there any golden nuggets or tips that you would like to leave with our audience?
The theme of everything, I think, is just, love God, love others. That's what Jesus said. If you had to boil everything down, you follow those two, love God, love others, everything else falls into place. And then for your specific audience, though, where there are people struggling with chronic pain, chronic illness, never quit. God really loves you, and it's frustrating because you can get mad at God and you can ask God questions. There's a difference. It's like when we have children. When we question our parents, that's a terrible attitude. Get out of my face. But when we ask a sincere question, that's where we grow and learn together. So if you're hurting, ask God the questions. But how does God typically answer? Through the Bible. Be reading your Bible and start off for most people in the New Testament. And John's a great book to start in to see God's love. But that would be my advice for anybody is never quit. Never, never, never quit. If you're around, either die trying to achieve what you're called to achieve or get better, whatever that obstacle is, or succeed and then tell other people and help other people. So that's what I'd say. Just never, never, never quit. Winston Churchill, but he got that from the Bible too. Run the race that's set before you.
So, it's important to put yourself in alignment with others who can encourage you, support you. It's like you put yourself with like minded individuals. And if you're struggling and you don't know God, then perhaps finding a place that is welcoming and can help you teach or can help you learn and grow as an individual.
Yeah, and that's a great thing because even in the Bible, it talks about how one day there was a Ethiopian and he was reading his Bible and he didn't even know he didn't understand it. So God sent someone to explain it. And, there's sadly a lot of bad churches out there. There's a lot of cults out there. So if you're reading your Bible and what they're saying doesn't line up with the Bible, common sense logic, get out. That's just a huge thing. Just get out. Don't worry about friends. Don't worry about family. Just get out. But for the good churches, if somebody says something that rubs you the wrong way, like, how dare they? Well, that's your problem. You know what I mean? That's your issue. You need to deal with. It's not a bad church. They're probably preaching the word. So you just keep that in mind. And then, yeah, there's so much. There's so much. But another thing that's huge is you said this earlier, Trina, but you have to fight for yourself. Like, doctors are gonna classify you and put you in a box and prescribe you drugs most of the time, and they just quit on you. They're like, "I got 1,000 patients, 4,000 patients. I gotta just keep moving them through." It's a money system, right? So you have to be your own advocate. You have to keep fighting. You have to keep searching. And again, it's just never quit. It's either be healthy or die. Like, don't be in between. Be hot, be cold, don't be lukewarm.
Right. Well, David, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing a little bit of wisdom of the challenges that you've gone through and how you've stayed positive and putting your focus on God to help you get through that journey. So, thank you again. And if any of our audience would like to continue this conversation with David, we'll make sure that you know how to reach him.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Today's episode showed you how to gain practical insight into resilience, faith, perseverance, and the mindset required to keep moving forward when the odds seem stacked against you. You heard how to advocate for yourself, trust God through uncertainty, and transform some of life's darkest moments into opportunities for growth and impact. Most importantly, you'll leave feeling encouraged, empowered, and hopeful. This conversation reminds you that you are stronger than you think, that healing is possible, and that no matter what challenges you're facing today, you don't have to quit. Sometimes the greatest victories come after the seasons where giving up feels easiest. This episode is for anyone who's ever felt overlooked, underestimated, broken, or ready to give up, and needs a reminder that your story isn't over yet. Now, don't forget to follow me on social media. Links will be provided in the show description. And if anything resonated with you and you'd like to continue this conversation or to be a guest, visit creativehq.com. That's CRE8TIVEHQ.com, where you can sign up for our newsletter for upcoming events and to apply to be a guest on the show. Thanks again for tuning in to the Royal Buzz, where you will discover inspiring stories, empowering discussions, and a whole lot of positivity.